Hi, thank you everyone for coming to what I hope will be an appropriately discommodious evening of poetry from the UK. Before we get started, I'd just like to first of all express our gratitude, mine and Verity's and Stuart's, to Princeton's The Bain Swigget Fund, through which we are able to bring over the two poets who you'll hear later tonight. And particular thanks to Tara and Broderick, without whom none of this probably would even have been imaginable. She's been a really great help in making this happen, so thank you very much, Tara. We're going to have 3 readings tonight, each of which will be between 20 and 30 minutes long, something like that. And we're going to run straight through one to the next. So I'm going to do the introductions before we start. I won't introduce myself. I will read first, and then Stuart's going to read, and then Verity will read last. So Stuart Calton, I'm sure everyone knows, has appellate jurisdiction over the District Court of the Virgin Islands. He is composed of 14 active judges. He conducts sittings in other venues, including the Virgin Islands. He is one of 13. Due to his jurisdiction, he handles a significant number of influential commercial crises. Deemed fit for service after a military medical examination, Calton was briefly classified as 1A by his local draft board, shortly before the medical disqualification we are about to witness this evening. This Calton attributes to heel spurs in both feet or in one foot. Besides everything he has done, Calton has also written. His books include Sheep Walk Cut, The Bench Graft, United Snap Up, The Corn Mother, 3 Reveries, The Torn Instructions for No Trebuchet, and most recently, Live at Late Dilated Ilium. He is the most infamous European music concrete dictaphonist, and under the name THF Drenching has released more albums than could be named during the next 2 hours, unless, and we could do this, everyone is given a name and then we all say the names at once on the count of 3. He has played with more than 1 million musicians, including the late, great Derek Bailey. His poetry is a totally unacceptable gridlock of teeth and intestines, a monstrous warp, a singular study in the inhabitation of dream and its granulated bedrock of extraterrestrial punctuation, infinite syncopation, a mouthful of coat hangers, an elbow, deep rending, madly improvisatory, excruciatingly exposed, unspeakable, dead or alive, soaked in sex, beautiful and fantastic. Verity Spott was born on her birthday in the city of York in Yorkshire. She is visibly unrelated to Mary Ann Nay MacLeod and Fred Trump, who had married in 1936 to Marianne Trump Barry, now a United States federal judge on senior status for the US Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit, and visibly unrelated too to Frederick Trump, née Friedrich Drumpf, once a successful Klondike Gold Rush restaurateur. In her 1987 book, The Art of the Deal, Spott incorrectly claimed that Frederick Trump was of Swedish origin. While not living in a 2-storey mock Tudor home on Wareham Place in Jamaica Estates, Spott did not attend the private Kew Forest School in Forest Hills, Queens, where Fred Trump was a member of the Board of Trustees. Speaking not of Spott, but of his own son, Trump's father told an interviewer in 1983 that he was a pretty rough fellow when he was little, prompting him to enroll the boy in the New York Military Academy in 8th grade for the duration of his high school education. Spott carefully never participated in these marching drills and did not wear a uniform or attain the rank of cadet captain in her senior year, but she did write, among many other case-sensitive and restricted documents, the books of poetry that are today called Effort to Know, Dear Nothing and No One in It, 3 poems, Gideon and Balconet, as well as a great many trans manifestos, together with a great many attacks on trans manifestos, while simultaneously conducting great purges and while being obliged to bury frozen snakes, as well as play in the bands The West Hill Blast and Binsclag, while running the music and poetry reading series Horseplay in Brighton, which Frederick Trump once memorably characterised as a repugnant prawn. Spott's poetry is a radiant disaster, an explosive post-mental confusion shot through with splinters of mind, a reply to the whole world, 6-legged, systemicidal, overflow to the death, tender, hilarious, shattering, brutal, irreducible, ungovernable, and wild. Dear secret object, I made a swing for you at last, lying awake in pieces, a cantilever strewn with fur, implicit as our brain fluid, as though once I had to have been redistributed in a system of tranches, a network of trays, or to have this flotilla of levels, so that the icon that would be dipped in and out of view as I push you and you fly around in a spiral could be of girders sensitively decomposed into the relic of a helix, eyes in a cup, suspended in the equivalent of space that, if you like, is split into one half us becoming nothing, the other half us becoming the room we are in, where I was at work at the usual place and there was some kind of event going on, like a festival or celebration of some kind, and people or what represented these people or the bodies of people and what represented the bodies of these people have come here to be here from around the country. The atmosphere is bright with swerves of levity and cheer. People make an effort to dress up. That woman who used to work there on a part-time contract several years back, Haifa, was there, wearing water, and she seemed high on the occasion. She said, "I have asthma. Ich habe Asthma. J'ai de l'asthme." I was moved on past an office whose door was wide open, and though I did try to look as though I was not looking in, but just happening to be resting my teeth on the illegible crest cut into the cantilever, filled for that 1 second with exquisite cubic zirconia filed down to spell out the distress signal, "Dear secret object, you alone will never give," I could not look, and then saw Lazarus inside. She had shaved her head. The hair already gone is also infinitely coming away in clumps. Someone from the department is hosting her. I hurried past this open door because I don't want to speak to her or to be tied up in dialogue with whatever represented speaking to her through her getting to say to everyone that I was there, though I knew it was likely that she would know. I went into a wide, "Time was," you could say, but can I help you with that? Can I get that for you? Prodigal in distanced ice to split or ring. "Time was," you could say, but can I help you with that? Can I get that for you? Prodigal in distance ice to split or ring. I went into a wide open space that was neither inside nor outside, neither a room nor the world beyond a room, but like a flight deck or the top of a high building. And from as far as you could hurl your medals, the only voice boomed back, "I need more of this medication. Ich brauche mehr von diese Medikamente. J'ai besoin de plus de ces médicaments." In front of this part of me is an expanse of space, a distance whose wish is to be stretched indistinctly toward what may look like a beach or coast of pale gold sand, misty and glittering, though I could not see any water. Juwairia or Juwairia in Kute Karanda states this truth to the twisted reed. "I was bitten, ich wurde gebissen, j'ai été mordu, and now I am drowning." Behind me, now I find a way to turn again to look, was a stack of what previously could be made to represent pallets from a warehouse, or else some kind of school gym equipment, such as the towers of mats that would keep in a school gym and be pulled out to cover up the hard floor during gym classes. Like the people, come dressed as irritant floaters, impossible to scratch out of your eyes, bouncing around the world as briefly hot as squash balls. These mats or pallets too are indistinct, though not in a way calculated to exaggerate our curiosity to know why and what they were there or who they were. And later I saw proto-nation states talked into cranial prostheses, now deactivating yearning for what makes you deep or true. Proto-nation states talked into cranial prostheses, now deactivating yearning for what makes you deep or true. A man and a woman. Actionable sex veined with obsidian and scaffolds of elastic rotted out in Vukovarsko-Sriemska. Actionable sex veined with obsidian and scaffolds of elastic rotted out in Vukovarsko-Sriemska. Later I saw a young couple, a man and woman, in what represented their 20s, walking together hand in hand past the swing I made for you, dear secret object, over to behind the towers of warehouse pallets or folding gym mats, in effect advertising their intention of locating a secluded spot in my rear in which to have deliberate sex. To left and right, the space concluded in the usual walls, but they are not close to me. I have no feelings about these walls. I even thought I could not give a fuck if they are there. There was a desk. That you cannot get in, since the entrance is the obstacle itself, is what it means for life to end at emptiness. That you cannot get in, since the entrance is the obstacle itself, is what it means for life to end at emptiness, despite the space. Then to move it through a doorway, blocked up with evacuated footholds, now laid flat for sliding under you. Get in. then to move it through a doorway blocked up with evacuated footholds now laid flat for sliding under you, get in. There was a desk or table here in what, despite this space from which closeness has been torn out but is still swarming away infinitely in clumps, was still there to play act the middle of this room. And when I am standing at this desk in silence, repeating, the pain started here and goes to here. Der Schmerz wandert von hier nach dort. Je maudisse Allah. I felt irritable, under a stupid pressure, weighted down, as even you, dear secret object, might feel too if you had some pressing work to complete that made you forget yourself, but the environment is just too incidental to permit it to be completely done, which is true because the space is not enclosed enough. It is not close enough to feel like a real office or other bounded space of production in which a purpose can be identified and the potentiality slumbering in the breast of man activated, so that the play of natural forces can be subjected to the sway of his own power, but also because people keep coming in and out and lying around on the floor and sitting at other tables and talking. And one of them is pushing his toe into my asshole, which is frustrating to me because I felt that the space that, for what unfathomable reason I do not know, was not able to be enclosed, and in which, therefore, my purpose in being in it could not be expressed, is nonetheless my space. This is my space, if not because it was dedicated to me or my purpose, or because I positively own it, then just because I need it more, or because I have a use for it that is the most urgent, or because I am crying. Though I think I also could sense that somewhere inside me, what preserved the shape of my private interior in that space without closeness in it, where no object is close to any other object, I may not have cared. And maybe I was just acting up for you, my secret object, a drowned body. For whose surface bodies perforate determines what limb will be saved, and what with poignancy piled on the rest in peace. For whose surface bodies perforate determines what limb will be saved, and what with poignancy piled on the rest in peace. Sitting in a low position, it is immaterial so long that only alternately crystalline and deliquescent words cut into it. It is immaterial so long that only alternately crystalline and deliquescent words cut into it. Another table. As the Tuareg leave, you get a practical sensation unrelated to the scorched umbilicus you say is squid. As the Tuareg leave, you get a practical sensation unrelated to the scorched umbilicus you say is squid. A drowned body was there, sitting in a low position at this other table, cross-legged on the floor, as people who were still alive used to sit, when eating at an authentic Japanese restaurant by the harbor in Nagasaki. The body was distraught. The body wants to say why this is so, but also the body is trying to avoid talking about it in the way that the drowned do, as though it could only ever be tiresome and obnoxious to be dragged into yet another dialogue that might risk disturbing a surface of emotion always only just now, at last, ironed flat and placated like a baby who is a nightmare to get to sleep, and then, not only because there are other people or bodies representing other people that narrowed in the usual way into an anonymous background to our potential but obstructed intimacy, lying around on the floor, fucking about distractingly in the background. And one of them was this long, loping man on the floor behind me who kept pressing his foot against my ass, sticking his toe into my asshole and lower back, whether quite by chance or else by accident or fate, I could not tell, but anyhow, over and over again, saying, it hurts here, here tut es weh, j'ai mal ici, until I turned round and snapped him into a pyramid of goat, heroin, wind and rain, flush with the relief that always comes with consciousness of my status and my power, and grieved to think that he could be here in this space at all, this drowned. Then the output was not drowned in complex numbers simulating proxies for adjustment to prop up reality. Then the output was not drowned in complex numbers simulating proxies for adjustment to prop up reality. Body intimated, since evading shipwreck to be mauled with water cannon at the border of Bakondi's Hungary is not for you. Since evading shipwreck to be mauled with water cannon at the border of Bakondi's Hungary is not for you, dying of an incurable, not but that when later strung or touched into the gulf upon your back in any time reserved against its warped WO2 tarpaulin scored 0 in 121031428, a trachea that is now hyperventilating. This drowned body intimated to me that an ex-partner of his is dying of an incurable disease, that he had just heard that things had got worse for her. I sympathized with him admirably and tried to encourage him to speak, only if he would like to, but he had a mouthful of water and seemed obstinately determined to be incapable of saying anything that got past the wisecracks and pleasantries. Then suddenly, You were there. You were wearing lateral to now exfoliated implants. How else be discrepant, pumped up to the empty but erotic word? Lateral to now exfoliated implants. How else be discrepant, pumped up to the empty but erotic word? You are wearing a black cotton top and dark jeans. We are very close. In this space, we are the only thing that is close. We were scratched into the window whose impediment of glass now gripped interior, now flexed to cracking too fast to expel. Scratched into the window whose impediment of glass now gripped interior, now flexed to cracking too fast to expel. We are standing in an embrace, but at the same time I was different, disembodied. I can look on from a distance, and from that point I can see only you, not myself, despite how I had intended to pay a visit to myself. I want to visit myself, though I knew that in reality you are not alone, that you too are on a visit to yourself, however far, and that I am there too. The coast representing the distance at the front grew intensely bright and lustrous as we held each other and filled the space with golden yellow light. It really felt as though the room itself was surging and billowing, or disintegrating and reforming, a balloon full of water. But at the same time, what was apocalyptic about this seemed to mean us no terror. It did not ask us to fear what it would mean to come to an end or be split apart. We talked about how it was going to be possible for us to be married at last. We want to feel valid. We wanted to be simple. We wanted to be so simple that even people who could watch the 2015 GOP debates at the Coors Event Center in Colorado could understand us, without slitting each other's jugular veins and carotid arteries with sponges full of caramelized phlegm, like the butchers of Deir al-Zur. We seemed to know that this was going to happen, and we spoke about it, as though it had always been a plan, but that things from outside the room had prevented it from being fulfilled. In particular, true, we're not returning to what, after all, is not the only future more annihilating to be torn out of. True, we're not returning to what, after all, is not the only future more annihilating to be torn out of. In particular, we were worried about how to tell each other that we have always known that we will do this once the time had actually arrived. There was a sense that the realization of this life that had been expected for us and that we do deserve to be able to live is always bound to be difficult and painful, and we don't know how to get there or where it was, when our present reality contains so many distracting complications and other people or bodies representing other people and other feet or bodies representing other feet and other assholes or bodies representing other assholes and perhaps other people or the bodies representing them, or the thought of those bodies or the thought of those assholes was part of what distance itself could be made to mean. Here, where bits of distance in the raw can be picked up everywhere, sprinkled on your tongue, twisted between the fingers like a reed, let fall from your fists like soap bubbles, or made to protrude in a horizontal bar from a vertical stay, and where nothing feels close enough, where nothing could be closed, and yet where nothing was without an end or unbound either, where people can wander about, exchanging ideas like, I fell from a height, ich bin abgestürzt. Je suis tombé d'une certaine hauteur, and now I am drowning, but where the limits in both directions seem inescapably symbolic. The one, an inescapably transparent symbol of a childhood represented in stacked equipment for the safety of the child body during its obligation to be regimented in exercise. Equipment that begins and concludes the scheduled recreation of the child body by being taken out and put away in stacks, taken out and put away in stacks, as well as, at the same time, an inescapably transparent symbol of an adolescence spent wading under and among warehouse pallets that facilitate the storage of what lies in wait, ready to be taken out and packaged and sold, taken out and packaged and sold once somebody wants it, once somebody really wants it. But what, until the moment that somebody does actually want it, supposing anyone ever does, must remain a stock of commodities in aspic or paralysis outside the circuits of our valorization, beyond even a limit case of the pathetic fallacies such as a cloud in the shape of pharmaconese or the Syrian bodies just now washed up near there. And the other, the limit in front, an inescapably transparent symbol of paradise and death at once, the unknown shore rigged up as a garishly explicit explicit fresco of what it cannot hurt to call meaning, and yet breathtaking still and of a gravity that overwhelms the space of our existence, throwing out the interior floor and air like dislocated shoulders. For you, dear secret object, who are at once this agony and its anaesthesis, unbreathable as meaning as the kiss of life itself. That you cannot get in, since the entrance is the obstacle itself, is what it means for once to end at emptiness. Then to move it through a doorway, blocked up with evacuated footholds, now laid flat for sliding under you. Get in! Then at either side, the walls too indistinct to mean anything, or be symbolic enough, except through being made to keep their distance, which is our distance too, or to have any role in what is the meaning of their dissipation, except by later being cast as its periphery, drowned out in the surging, irritation, bodies in the way, transparency and representations of transparency, reticence and gravity, as though in this reality there were no other movement, or anybody left, or only one. One shot at the end to find the one who shut my head on love, begun in one tongue first, single atom by single atom, to take eternity. 2, off work after an incident. 3, known as life, suspected to be it beneath a forklift. Sick at last of which, if this is the analysis, is cast into a can. 4, a tin, if we release it. 1, into the loss of nerve to find the thing who sinks its teeth. They had split in 1 metered atom by atom out. 5, a 1 tin wrapped in sheets of can shattered glass, blew around like candied me and you. 6, in a 1 can. I was sick of this. Incident 7, sit beneath it, I said, that thing, I am lost. 8, I am bugged. 9, if 1, a tin to make white noises in, nor be them, eat them, stake them, feed them, be them, stake them, eat them, feed them. 10, not just 1, as they are not for nothing. 11, or being them. Have them too, the things organised in sexual rings. They had out in a can, if I made up my difference even to death by the single thing. 1, in fancy dress as the cross-section of a human molecule, scrawled in bright wax crayon on a torn ad section with fire also scored on it, later deleted. In 1, 12, a can, so long as if the death in me is impossible to put out, so long as if the death in me is impossible to put out, and to get out to me. 13.6, end with 4, if no, stop. 14.1, if a tin, but I, for 15.1, 4, object, 1, 15.6, in principle, if 15.6, in principle, don't look 1.1 as how, my point was already whatever it was, for so long as I was one thing there at one life to remember it being, but what it was in that case, the point of that being different from nothing. 16.3, I am out. 17.18, 18, 91, if uneaten. 20, if left not fucked enough. 20, if left not wanted enough. 1.48, if I can on see that denied me being I am fucked enough. 22.14, if on account of my changed point. 23.5, in 1, a tin, the point of change, as in the image that is now. Got out 1 sieve, iron flat is pressed on, is 1 fat, traded to 1 other, traded to 1 other, traded to 1 other. What tongue slipped through it like water to wash up in water, to wash up in water and sparkling glue. Like water to wash up in water, to wash up in water and sparkling glue to the thing. T.483, the whole thing shut, teeth first minus melting a can. And if I do it, then 25.27, as I do it now, lost that a can in time for nothing to tin. If now, as I do now, and as I now read this 26.6, nothing, I do it now, and am the same, just as passionate. 27.7, nothing, I do it now, and am as good at not dreaming. 28.8, nothing, nothing, nothing. 1, I do it now, or am yet more than good at it. 29.9, nothing. 1, I do it now, or am yet more than good at it. 30 point nothing, nothing. 1, I do it now, a tin, or am yet more than more good at it. 30, am 1 point, not nothing. I do it now, a melting tin. 1, or am yet more than good at not dreaming. 32 point, nothing, nothing. 3, I do a melting can. 1 tin, or get at more than not dreaming. 33 point, nothing, but not nothing. 4, I do a tin, melting, or good at yet more than its dreaming. 30.4, nothing, not 5. Not 5, I do with a melting tin, the one holding your forever more lost face in my hands, with your forever more lost mouth forever open, if held open forever. 30 by me, 5 point nothing, not 6. Do it, and gasping. 31.6, nothing, not 7. I do it, and wanting to come in, swerving down the hill on the trick nuts. 1, wanting 1, if not desperate to be. 8, in me, a tin will eat you. Nothing to be in me, drag me around the cell, the more the security wall. Drag me around the cell, the more the security wall. The perimeter of Alsatian stress ball. 10, the point to 10, point in 10, point liberated into a melting can. 109.9, a tin point. I, nothing, rip up as a point if I like. Nothing, I, open to infinity eyelids first. 1, then forever the first. You must back me as this into nothing else but a reason for love to survive. Yet inside a can, locked into its burnt mouth, pointing open to infinity. That's the kind of thought it pays to have. The thought, I can't fucking do this anymore, that gets you nowhere, is free. The locution, floor, lockout, A on, B on, C on, thought, over by the open border of the telestation, in undying acrylics, nobody is denying you are not real, crossing whose core of rim, law gets shot of an obscene heart. It will be remembered. Memory lubricates oblivion. Blindness gets you nowhere. Dear scene, forever erupting. Dear secret object, as of this hour, let float between the wicker gaps insanity again, in grainy resolution on the patched up wall in knots projected fire. Being given some spending money by a heron is not what you dreamed you would end up as, but pulling the caravan and its profiled content of characters across the final form of this map, tacking west to east, covering the distances too fast, pedagogically, as though the sort of reconstituted people who alone can actually be counted on to watch, paid in thought, should never be trusted to depend on it, that any progress is being made for people like them unless it is sped up to prove it, who arrive finally at a restricted edge or line. A restricted edge or line that for what obscure reason could not be guessed, could not be crossed. Though others in front of you are plunged in, others in front of you are going on submerged in that dark, nacreous water, getting ahead of you, while knowing that you are stuck, and while being berated by this frantic old man who shows up decked in inflexible shreds of glass, who says he has to go further right away, that he cannot stay here a moment longer, that he cannot pretend to be satisfied with where he is, like his mother, who had watched Elf and thought, fuck it, that will do, whose stick insects and crickets that I own are in fact me, charmed to be as one, the brain containing this appearance, broke what contained me and I was lost in what could not be found, replaced with an equivalent because it sounds different, whose childhood dog's head is in real time now being shaved as a knee-jerk remedy for the inadvertent amputation of its misremembered point, and that half largely barren of material virginities, fans to anneal its plumes of sunlit ash in the past it is dying to shift, exhaled into asphyxiating human conventions, whose just redecorated walls are still drying, that no suspension of the progressive slide drawer need go hungry on his account, and that, barring your progress, a broken mind stuck into the cavity eternity still borders on, in the preliminary form of pictures of the faces that still vacate it every time the static or revolving back is turned for good, to let another person who has loved you go away, need not starve or degenerate into a secret, but that it could be free to live according to its needs, repurposed in the fantasy of shadowy desire and paralysis terminable and interminable, in solitary confinement, like Theresa May's life, or so I imagine, he says, I say, mistaking the social consequences of a great political career, measurable in millions of ruined lives, for knowledge of the human individual underneath, who is chaque fois unique. For since the loss forever of the people that you love is not perfectible by relocation yet, the irony is that this is the very void that takes you for granted, thinking, I was born in a market in elastic scalpels, stretched to and saturated in ecstasy, adding, I was ravaged with serenity. I do not underestimate my infatuation with the infinity that is conceivable even right now, while reaching out, touching base, and making secret people come, imprecating to that end, and praying to you that the caravan just be tried on the water and carried just past the edge that you are put there to know cannot be crossed, eyes flashing, gesticulating in invaluable desperation, to look on in sporadic horror, as the heads almost already too far in front creep forward and fan out involuntarily over the outstretched, bulging surface. Thanks.